And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer, and we're going to be discussing Big Sky Season 2, Episode number 3, titled You Have to Play Along. If you've not hit the sub button, please do so. Leave a like, leave a comment, and check out some of the other content on the channel. Got a lot of stuff going on. Let's start. Let's start at the end like we typically do with this show. After a long episode of Dono chasing Tanya like a like a slasher villain, um, we end where they're in everything. It's basically reset to where they were at the beginning of the episode. They're back in the trailer on the construction site. He's got a messed up leg, but Tanya's there. But Jerry and Cassie show up. And, that's the big cliffhanger ending. What's going to happen? They got their guns. We've got them in the trailer. How are they going to get out of this? I always, typically when they have these cliffhanger endings, you start working in your mind, okay, how are they going to get out of this one in the next episode? Usually it's some kind of BS way. And this one, it's going to have to be as well, because I don't see them solving the case in the next episode. But I don't know. How are they going to get out of this one?
I don't know, man. They might find like a secret tunnel and climb out of a storm drain window. Or
what's crazy is you're not even like bullshitting. Like that's the kind of stuff they do.
That's what happened with Ronald. That's the only way he could have got out in the first season of the basement. Yeah. There's no other. Or you're going to realize that they're there, but the other people aren't. Like it's a time jump, or they got there too late, or something stupid. It doesn't feel like a plot hole, and it doesn't feel like it's not planned out. But I mentioned it a couple times this season already. This is what makes me laugh, and this is what keeps me interested at the same time. Like it is the most ridiculous stuff, but without it, I don't know that I'd be interested. The fact that I have zero idea what's going to happen, and the fact that, without exaggerating, anything can happen. Like I said, they may form like a person ladder, and Cassie climbs on Jerry's shoulders, and they scale a roof. Or it's like the most ridiculous stuff, and anything can happen.
My biggest, the reason we started with it mostly because I actually had a gripe, and it was okay. So we're at the crime scene. A guy was murdered. The sheriff tells Jenny, look, you were the first officer here. You got to stay and secure the scene and, all that. That made sense to me. I actually was like, all right, that makes sense. But Jerry was like, look, they have to be nearby. I saw a trailer. There's a construction site nearby. We're going to go check it out. Why didn't he say, you know what? You're right. I'm sending a couple of officers with you. Like, what I mean? It's little stuff like that. Now, look, it is what it is. But that particular scene started out in a way where I was like, that makes sense. I completely understand why he's telling Jenny this. But why didn't you send a couple guys with them? Because Jerry was 100% right. He's like, they have to be close. I know where there's a building nearby.
Well, and it would make more sense for him to be apprehensive to send somebody if they didn't have like a really good relationship. Like if these were just like, if I ran into a cop off the street and was like, hey man, I saw this stuff, they'd be like, yeah, bullshit. They don't know me. They have no idea what I'm trying to do or trying to steer them into, or if I'm trying to, basically lay a trap for them or whatever, get them hurt. They, their PI investigation firm with Cassie and everybody else, and now an old member of that firm is now the undersheriff. Like they have a great relationship. Like you said, why would they not trust Jerry? That's what I'm saying. Is like, yeah. I understand in a regular, everyday kind of situation where the cop wouldn't be, all gung-ho to send all these sheriffs with them. But in this situation where they have a great relationship, they work together, they've helped each other solve stuff, there's no way that he wouldn't trust them. And that's like you said, why wouldn't he just be like, you know what? Let me send a couple officers with you, or send a patrol car with you, just to make it official. Should they find somebody, they could, mark off that crime scene. If he's bitching at, not Cassie, Jen, to mark off a crime scene, why would, if this is a potential another crime scene, Why would he let them go there and fuck it up? Without having
That's
something to do to
exactly
look at?
where I was going. Yeah, 100%. Because how many times have Cassie been like, "All right, I'm going to do this thing," and it turned into a crime scene? Like so many times.
Yeah, at what point is she not getting the finger pointed at her for being the bad guy? Because her fingerprints are always at the scene. There's always her blood at the scene or her bullet casings. Like, at what point is she not being thought of as the perpetrator of some of these crimes?
So yeah, next week's episode obviously will open with the however that's going to resolve. But the easiest way to do it is, they still haven't said her name. The cartel, how I'll say
Ren.
cleaner. Is it
Yeah,
Ren?
yeah, it's Ren, and they mentioned that her dad runs it.
Yes,
Her and her brother. So,
and
but
her brother Jag, which they did say his name.
God, that was so great. Like when I saw that pop up on her phone, I was like, "You got to be kidding me! That's his name." Or for Jaguar, or
But so we know we do get a little bit with her because of the phone conversation, her talk with Dono. My assumption is she's going to come outside and maybe get Jerry and Cassie to leave or something while Dono gets Tanya out the back. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it. But she was sent there. They said she's a cleaner, basically. Like you said, her father's the cartel leader, based on the way we understand it. Her brother is a big deal. And she's there to solve the problem and get the drugs and money back. She's proven to be an interesting character.
well, and I think too, when you have a character's whole point is to prove themselves, it makes them a loose cannon. Like they will do anything to do that. So if her brother is a bigger deal than she is in the cartel, or the dad's looking for her to finally step up, these could be huge um, uh, incentives. These could be, a big portion of what she is doing, because if she doesn't want to do these things, or if she doesn't want to kill these people, or if she doesn't really care about the drugs personally, she has a point to prove. She's trying to be better than her brother. She's trying to prove to her dad that she can take over the business or whatever. And so she's going to take this job way more serious than perhaps I originally thought. Because if she was the leader of the cartel, then yeah, she's taking a personal interest in it. But it seemed like she wouldn't be, because I mean, I've watched, The Godfather and all these mob movies and all these other things. The boss ain't going around pulling the trigger. He pulled the trigger before, and that's how he got to be the boss. But once they're at that level, you have to have some kind of escape route. Like you have to be able to point the finger at somebody else so that you don't get in trouble. So she's trying to prove to her dad that she can be that person that's relied on. So I think that it makes her a loose cannon.
The other somewhat of a cliffhanger was Harvey, Sheriff or Officer Harvey. We know he's a dirty cop. He's tied to the cartel. He's working with Ren and her people, and he's the one who covered up this crime scene. But he has put together. He's figured out that Bridger knows something. I don't know if I wasn't paying attention. I missed him coming to that conclusion, but he did. And so now he's looking for the log to see who it was. He knows who it was. Bridger has went and used his money to buy a police scanner, which was sort of smart, so that he could sort of keep tabs on, things going on, especially since they're tied into, drugs and money now. But Harvey's coming for Bridger, which will obviously lead him to the rest of the group, and I'm assuming figure out where the money and the drugs are. I didn't, I kept trying to figure out who the hell that kid was, the Bridger. He was in the It movies.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I knew his face. I was like, damn, I know this. Who is he? And yeah, I looked it up.
I did the same thing, because I kept looking at his face thinking he looked super familiar. So I didn't know if it was Stranger Things or something, like an extra. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh, yeah. But I do think that the Harvey stuff, it's weird, because there's parts in this episode where the Harvey and Ren relationship feel like they similar to Jenny and Travis, or whatever he's calling himself these days.
Yeah, Travis.
it feels like they've known each other for a long time. So when Harvey and Ren talk to each other, it feels like they've known each other for a long time. So I don't know if he's worked for them for a long time or if, he moved there more recently, because it seemed like when they showed up on the plane, they hadn't been to Montana ever. So it's odd that the Harvey and Ren relationship feels the same as Jenny and Travis's relationship as far as how well they know each other.
I think that's just the way they were. I don't. I think that's just the way it was written.
Yeah. But once again, it's one of those things where it's not going to take me completely out of the scene. It's one of those things I noticed or felt that maybe not everybody else did, but that's just something odd that I noticed. But yeah, Bridger, it's like he's trying to make preparations for a scene we haven't seen yet, that we know is coming. But I am curious if Harvey, figuring out who the kid is, if he's going to start figuring out, the T-Lock situation and stuff. So it's cool because they're laying the groundwork for that kind of stuff to happen. It's pretty blatant, but it's, once again, this show throws so many curveballs that who the hell knows what's going to happen.
And speaking of T-Lock, so he's trying to figure out where the money and the drugs came from. Max is basically runs to Harp and is like, look, we got to move this stuff. Actually, it was funny. I didn't know where they were going with it because, okay, first of all, they pull the drugs and money out. Harp's going to take it to her place, but they just got it like the bags open in the middle of this shed. And I'm like, I'm assuming T-Lock's gone, but I'm like, what are y'all doing? And of course he shows up, but they come up with a clever idea. It's like, oh, we'll just start making out and, he'll freak out and walk away, which is exactly what happened. Plus, it's also because Max straight up asked Harp earlier. She's like, "Look, are we friends or what are we doing here?" And I guess she got her answer. But Harp's taking the drugs and money, and then creepy Woods guy shows up. He knows where she lives, so I was like, "Oh no!" And that was another somewhat of a cliffhanger as far as that. But yeah, what do you think? How T-Lock, the girls' relationship, where that's going in terms of the money and the drugs and Woods guy and all that.
Well, there's a lot of other shows that do that kind of stuff where two of the characters will do something where it makes it seem as though one of them is interested in the other, but it was part of a bit or something they were doing to deflect or disguise or something, and then the one character always falls in more love, and it was very much a thing that I've seen 1,001 times. So I thought it was funny. The part that kind of took me out of that scene particularly was the fact that T-Lock has been this pervy, weird, creepy dude this whole time. And then the one time where it would have made more sense for him to be super creepy and gross, he like gets weirded out and walks away. So it took me out of the scene because, he eyeballs Harp. He's sitting there staring at Max. He's rummaging through her clothes in this episode. Like he's going through her underwear drawers and everything. So I'm like, this creepy motherfucker does all these things out in the open. And then the one time, like there is something that happens, he gets scared and run away. It made me feel really weird and question the character because I don't know what to think of him anymore. Because before, clearly he's a sketchy dude. He's into the drugs. He's doing all these bad things. But I felt like they were leading us to believe that he was going to make an advancement on Harp or Max or, do something extra shitty. And then to me, we were going to see whether or not the mom was going to step up. And that's the way I felt like they were leading us. So in this scene, it made me feel like they were trying to lead us in a completely different direction. So it didn't like hurt my feelings or nothing. It was an odd choice, I thought.
Yeah, and I just hope they don't. Yeah, I completely agree because I just can't get a beat on what we're doing with T-Lock because they moved the drugs and money. So I'm like, all right, so he's not going to be tied into that. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with him. And as far as Max and Harp, I just hope they don't do the whole thing where Max is like, all right, yeah, we're a couple, and then she walks in and harps with someone else, and then she's like, I thought we were a thing, and she's like, no, please don't do that.
Don't
That
do
would
the rom com.
I hate that so much. It's like, yeah, don't do that. um I would just be like, no, they're a couple now, and run with that. But yeah, the
Well,
T-Lock stuff, I just don't know his purpose now. The dogs agree. But let's see
um,
here. Oh, go
no,
ahead.
but the you got Max and Harp. I think that, like you said, if they have this, they're leading us towards this way where they're supposed to be together. And to me, it's not. This isn't a rom com. This isn't a thing where you have to add the dynamic of their relationship woes to the show, because the way that this show is kind of produced, it's not a procedural, but it is like there's overarching stories going on. So unless these two characters are going to stick around past season 2, which I don't believe they will, because
They might not finish season 2. They'll sometimes,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
There's no point to add that storyline to it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how many, last season had a couple different story arcs and characters literally left in the middle of the season, so that could be the case here. Or not, I don't know. Travis. He has a few moments in the episode. He's helping Jenny. We see that, he is undercover. He has ties to the drugs and the cartel, but he seems to be on the up and up, but I still don't know. He's another character where I'm just like, what's the purpose of this character? Where's this going? Cassie seems a little, um, I don't know, concern is the word. I don't know. When it comes to Cassie and Jenny, I never quite understand how they, um,
Because
relate or connect to each other.
this whole fucking episode, like I text you bitching about it. The first 2 episodes were super strong because they weren't together in a lot of scenes, but in this episode, for whatever reason, to me they go back to the part I don't like, and they're in a bunch of scenes together, and it was not good. I To me, it goes right back into my original gripe. Like when they're on screen together, it's not great.
They don't have chemistry.
No,
They don't, and it's so true because with other characters they work great. They're both good actresses. It's just when they're in a scene together, I don't know. It's awkward. It's always awkward.
it feels like stale and robotic and, like you said, awkward for these people to have been friends for as long as they have. To me, to make the uncomfortable situation make more sense, if they just talked about the fact that Cassie was sleeping with her husband and been like, yeah, we've known each other for a long time, but this still kind of makes things a little awkward. One line of dialogue, because then it would make sense for me for them to be a little weird around each other. Because Jenny still thinks about that. She still thinks that, Cassie basically stole her husband away. Like there's a lot of things that would make it make sense, but they've never addressed it. And they go out to have beers together. So they're acting like old friends as opposed to trying to mend that bridge. If it showed them trying to mend their relationship, then all these weird, awkward moments would make more sense. But it feels like in the show, they've already got past that bridge. They don't even care about that anymore. As opposed to me making it a focal point, because to me that would make it, the awkwardness make sense. But
What do you think about Travis as far
uh,
as
I,
anything?
I no, and I don't dislike his character in the show. I think it's a great character, but I think that he's playing Jenny because now that she's in her, and I think that he is using her. I think that he is playing her. I think that he's connected just like Harvey is with the cartels.
Now let's go to my favorite topic. Let's close strong with the gold. Should have opened with this, but it's sort of a sub story. So, um, my God, Legarsky's story, dude.
So
I,
good.
so all the complaining I've done in this episode with some of the performances, I have nothing to complain about with this section of the show. So we learn we learn a few things actually through Jerry with the book and everything. But basically, Wolf Legarsky is a dog guru. He trains dogs, which makes sense to some of the dialogue in the past couple episodes. He has his wife is Agatha. They named her, and we basically get him trying to figure out how to work with Ronald. Scarlett's sort of falling in line with what they want as far as their reprogramming, if you will. Ronald is refusing. He's being childish, just like he always has been in the show. We get first of all, Wolf decides to change. He shaves because he wants to look like Rick to be a friendly face, and then we get one of the greatest scenes of this season, the lunch scene. Dude, it was so good because Ronald's just like, I don't like beets, and
I
he's like,
was
I want cereal.
I was dying. That's so fucking ridiculous.
He's like, I want a treat, and then it just keeps going and going, and they're like, well, Scarlett prepared this, and he's just like, I don't care, I want cereal, and then he called. I wrote some of the notes. Let me see here. He was just like, what, sugar soup? He's like, it's just sugar soup. That's what Legarsky said. But then the greatest part was um, the happy reward table. He's like, well,
Dude,
perhaps you could choose some cereal and we'll put it on the happy reward table.
the best part about that table was it looked like there was a fucking squirt gun on it.
There was a
For
super
what-
soaker.
Like
I
one
was
of
looking
the
so
rewards-
hard, trying to figure out what's all on that table.
One of the rewards for well behaved people was a fucking squirt gun. Like I was
Dude. But Ronald wants cereal for the reward table, and then we get the moment where they're like, well, Scarlett, take him back to his shed or whatever, and of course he tries to escape and learns there's a big ass they're enclosed in this wall essentially around the compound. So then Legarsky, beats the shit out of Ronald, and that's sort of the conclusion of that. But all of it was great. It was entertaining. The actor that plays Wolf, Rick, whatever, man, he has completely embraced this character. He's and his performance is actually, I'm going to use this word, it's very subtle, and there's little things he does that tie back to the last season. In a show where, you can poke fun at a lot of things, I'm really enjoying his performance. Agatha, his wife, this was the first time she really spoke in the show, and I love the back and forth between her, and her husband, and of course Scarlett and Ronald were Scarlett and Ronald, but absolutely loved all those scenes.
well, I think too, it's when you talk about, subtlety, you have Rick Wolfgang. The way he plays the characters is that they're inherently feel like they're doing the right thing, but neither one of them are actually good people. So when Wolfgang comes and talks to Scarlett and they're having that moment, Scarlett's trying to tell Ronald, hey man, we're safe here. I get that this isn't what you want, but we're safe. So I think that she's not necessarily reprogrammed. She's seeing it as
This is in our best interest right now.
yeah, they did some stupid stuff. They put themselves in a situation where now they're being hunted. So now they're in a safe situation where Wolfgang's going to keep them safe, and Ronald, throwing a baby fit, runs away. But Wolfgang's face when he's like, I knew he would run, and he loved that he had to go chase him. So to me, it's those little things, because Rick did it too. Rick would get like pissed off at Ronald for screwing up, but then he would get happy because he got to go chasing. I don't remember the two girls' names from last season, but he got to go chase that girl with the bow.
And if you notice, I'm giving it credit for clever writing. This is a whole dog training, right? That's how they're approaching this. What does Ronald do when he gets to the fence? He's trying to dig under the
Yeah.
And it's like a dog. You know what I mean? Like that was. I feel they were thinking. The writing team was thinking this through. Like, it's the cleverest thing the show is doing right now. I think is this story.
Well, I think too that those actors have embraced the ridiculousness of the show,
Yes.
and it's helped their scenes a lot. It is it's the most outlandish, crazy, non-believable shit, but it's so well done that you enjoy it. On the flip
Yeah.
side,
Yeah. You just you. It's entertaining. Yeah.
yeah. So on the flip side, you got Jenny and Cassie, who are their stories should be way more believable, and you can't embrace anything that they're doing as reality. So that's what we talked about before, the chemistry. There's a lot of things that they can do to fix that, I think. But I don't know that they care because their viewership is still ridiculous right now. Like, it's one of their highest viewed shows, and it. So until enough people start bitching about it, they ain't fixing it because they don't care. But
Yeah. True. um. But yeah, another episode next week. There was supposedly there was concern about a Hollywood strike happening this week that would affect productions, but I think I read that they've at least temporarily come to a agreement. So I don't think the strike's going to happen. Because for a while I was thinking, oh man, Big Sky is going to be gone for a while, but no, it looks like it'll be fine.
I'm trying to remember when the last one was, like 2008 or 2009.
The writer's strike,
The writer's
yeah.
I'm trying to remember The Office was like a 16 episode season that.
Every show, yeah, was like cut in half. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Big Sky this week. Yeah, anything else?
I just there's a couple relationships I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to play into the story, and I'm looking forward to not seeing Jenny and Cassie together next episode. I mean, I don't know if they're together or not, but I'm just looking forward to them not being together.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Well, and hopefully Mark will return. He wasn't there this week.
Yes.
But all right, we will be back next week with another discussion about Big Sky, and hopefully you're there to listen. And if you have any thoughts about anything we said this episode, put it in the comments. We love reading them. Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.